Hey everyone! I usually build new bikes on rainy days, but since blocking off my window, I can't see if it's raining or not. This means I can now build bikes whenever I want though. Or should I say, when I get permission from the cute thief. I'm not sure where he's hiding at the moment, but a surefire way to find him is just open up his favourite treats. That did the trick. Now if you're new to the channel, then this is my highly trained cat who has a talent for finding really cool old bike parts, and the occasional new one too. Don't ask where he gets them, but I think he's very active on eBay. But today, much like my Pivot Shadowcat build, he gets a break as I'm building a brand new bike with parts from my sponsors. I do like to get his approval first though. With all my fingers still attached and his approval granted, let's get started. Today's bike is one that's been a long time coming and one I've had lots of DMs asking about. Yep, it's time to build my 2023 Inspired Hex Street Trials bike. We nailed the Geo on this years ago, so no changes there, but it does have an updated head tube, which slightly reminds me of a Sega's nose. I'm no stranger to big noses, so both the Sega and the new head tube appeals to me. Carrying on from the previous model, but still worth mentioning because they're damn cool, are the super neat 12mm dropouts, unique two-piece arse-bearing shell and yoke, low-profile integrated tensioner mounts, and possibly the neatest one-piece dropout and post mount I've ever seen. All of these things combined makes the best 26-inch wheel Street Trials frame on the market. The yellow's nice too. I've been giving myself plenty of bruises from crashing recently, so as a tribute, I'm going to do a yellow and purple bruised themed bike. Gonna get started at the nose. My block of headset fitting wood is chapping at the bit to give it a nose job, but this frame is much like my Pivot Shadowcat in that it doesn't use cups. I need to put a lead on this thing. Now I'm a changed person since I've updated my garage, so I make sure to add plenty of grease and hairs before fitting the bearings. To go with the frame, I of course have a matching fork. I still have my homemade ones which I might fit again sometime, but the Hex fork is a nice bit of kit. Firstly, the graphics match, which is always nice. And the tapered steerer is nicely designed and extremely strong. The integrated top cap is a great system to allow me to route my front brake through the steerer and still allow me to tighten the headset. To match the frame, the fork also has a through axle system. Having previously used a 15mm version, this will be my first time using a 20mm axle. I never found my 15mm version in the past to be plagued with flex, but all the cool kids like 20mm axles, and my parents say I'm cool, so it must be true, and therefore I must run this axle. But that will have to wait, as first I have to give this frame a hell of a nose ring. And speaking of rings, I'm going to like this bike, so I'm going to put a ring on it. Well, a few rings of different sizes so I can play around with bar height. A sensible person would probably just see how many were on my old bike, or measure the bar height and match it. But I'm the same guy who fitted disc rotor bolts with a high torque drill and snapped half the bolts clean off. So yeah, no measuring or even glancing at my old bike happening here. Stem please. To get a nice high front end, you don't need to resort to illicit goods. All you need is a high-rise stem like this Tratec 90x35 model. Forged stems are great as there's no welds to crack. And to pimp this up a little, I've added some atomic number 22 bolts. Fortunately, the number of headset rings is just the right amount to not need to cut this steerer. Now this steerer is thicker than usual, so it might have been a bit much for the pipe cutting tool, and I still don't have a decent vise setup, so this was rather convenient. Well, that was my announcement of the Inspired Team bar. This is the best Street Trials bar available. I mean, just listen to it. Street Trials bars don't get any better than that. Although, maybe these high-rise bars are illicit. I feel a bit wobbly after that. So with that black headset, black stem and black bar, my yellow and purple theme is looking great. It's now traditional to fit the front hoop, but screw traditions. How about mixing it up and doing the rear? Nah, I'm going to keep you on your toes and skip all that stuff and go straight to the bottom arse bearing. One neat thing with Inspired's arse is it comes fully fitted with its own grease brush that lives in the seat tube. All you have to do is remember to shove a sausage down there once in a while. The arse bearing itself is a Shimano external model. Not much to say about it, so I won't. On second thoughts, that Easy Fit system is worth a mention, so here goes. The Easy Fit system is a nice touch. If you squint hard enough, you might be able to make out these blurry cranks as being Shimano XTs. One thing that is clear though, that they still use a 24mm steel axle in 2023, keeping it old school. And speaking of old school, what goes around comes around. Shimano used to have removable spiders, then they removed that option, and now they've removed the non-removable spider, so you can remove the spider, which removes being stuck in one bolt pattern. I hope that removes any confusion. What I'm trying to get at is that I can now fit this Shimano-specific Inspired one-piece 22-tooth sprocket and bash combo. It doesn't get much neater than this. It wasn't all smooth sailing though. The lock ring sits in a recess, and I didn't have a tool with a small enough outer diameter to fit. But I do have a grinder and a steady hand, so now I do have a tool that fits. Just imagine the trouble I could get into if I had a lathe. But with the bash fitted and looking great, I can now fit them to the bike. Now I still don't have a tool to tighten Shimano cranks, and my broken pair of scissors that worked well have been thrown out, so it's time to potentially wreck a nice vernier caliper instead. But if it kind of works, it kind of works. The standard pinch bolts are pretty boring though. Time to pop in some more atomic 22s instead. The weight saving from this is truly inconceivable. With the black crankers and bash fitted, the yellow and purple theme continues to impress. No time to rest though, let's get back to schedule and fit the front infinite hoop. Now, at least half a person is wondering what happened with my rope spoke circle that Adam at Tarty Bikes built for me over a year ago. Firstly, if you're new here, thanks for tuning in. This wheel was a homemade version of Bird's rope spoke concept and involves a lot of brazing, knotting and swearing. There is zero benefit for this type of bike, but over 800,000 of you seem to really enjoy geeking out over a bunch of spokes, so that was cool. But these spokes are being retired. I have some frayed knots and I constantly have to adjust the tension, but now some of the nipples are bottomed out and there's no more I can do. None of them snapped though, and I really enjoyed seeing people's reactions when they saw them on my bike. So yeah, a fun experiment, maybe worth it for a lightweight road or XC bike, but not worth it for trials. But there's good news, everybody. I have a new circle. Now, here's some info about me you didn't know you're getting. When I get nightmares, they're more about cosmic horror than monsters. There's nothing scarier to me than the incomprehensible, and in my case, it's the concept of infinity that makes me wake up in a cold sweat. Yet, a simple circle is infinite, and here I am holding infinity in my hands. This is more like a dream come true than a nightmare, as this piece of infinity is made by Light Bicycle. Infinity has its limits though, and this tops out at a massive 38mm wide. Right in the middle of infinity lies an Industry 9 Hydra hub, which of course has a 20mm infinite axle. Now I recently did a video on how Light Bicycle have built these wheels for me and how they're the first time in 15 years I'll be using wheels I haven't built myself. I'm impressed with the workmanship though, so I'm not worried. A top of the range circle needs a good shoe, and luckily I got some very nice kicks from Germany. This is a Schwalbe Billy Bonkers. Now I was a fan of the old tabletop model, and this is the replacement. Previously these only came in a narrow 2.1 inch size, which wasn't ideal for trials, but now they do them in 2.25. I'm interested to see how they feel. It's a much rounder and faster tyre than I'm used to. It should be awesome for spins and places like skate parks and pun tracks, but maybe at a compromise of grips on rocks and logs. If I don't get on with it, I'll put on my Racing Ralphs, which I actually really liked. Also, the logos have a color shift glitter effect, which is cool. Look at it shine. This tyre is very lightweight, which makes the bike easier to move, but sometimes I need to use a harder pressure, which results in less bounce and more sting on landings. Inserts will help with this though. Keeping on brand, I wrapped the rim up with some nice wide Schwalbe tape. I've used a lot of tape in my professional and personal life, and without question, the Schwalbe tape is the best I've used. It's also great as tubeless tape. I mentioned inserts, and of course I'm using rim packs as usual. These are the original model just to save a little bit of weight. I love that rim packs still respect us 26-inch riders, but they don't stop there. They also respect 24-inch, and if you're a weird shape, they can do custom respect too. Also, valves are included, and this is just what I needed in my life right now. An admittedly shoddy effort at fitting the tyre, but I do get to show you the exciting world of insert stuffing now. First, grab the insert, then stuff it right up in there. Then stuff the tyre under the insert, then stuff some sealant in, finish the tyre stuffing, then lastly, stuff some air in there like you just don't care. With the stuffing done, this turkey is ready for roasting. Or, judging by the roasting I got on my last build video, where I used a high torque drill to snap the heads off my rotor bolts, maybe I'm the turkey. People were saying I should have dialed back the torque setting on the drill to avoid over-torquing them, but the joke's on you. This doesn't have adjustable torque settings. Who's the turkey now, huh? Now I've insulted half the viewers from my last build video, let's get this 180mm rotor fitted. I normally use 203, but I like the neatness of no adapters, so I'll see if these smaller ones will be powerful enough. And yes, of course I'm going to use the drill again. I may be a turkey, but I'm a gentle turkey when I need to be. I'll use my built-in torque wrench to finish them all off. And that's my happy dance for not snapping any of these bolts. With that all done, let's finally fit this thing. Well, glove continuity is out the window, but the wheel fits like one, so that makes up for it. Well, that was nearly 6 minutes talking about random nightmares, infinite ideas, and turkeys. You don't need all that again, so let's do a power edit for the rear wheel. Wheel goes here. Wheel is the same light bicycle rim as the front. Hub is an inch 9 Hydra single speed. Tyre is a matching Schwalbe Billy Bonkers. Rim packed insert. Schwalbe tape goes on. Valve gets valved. Everything gets smooshed together. And as a bonus, I didn't snap any rotor bolts. And with all that out of the way, I can finally fit a, drum roll please, a purple part. It's about damn time this bruised theme bike actually had some purple parts, isn't it? There we go, much better. I'm going to tell you about this sprocket now. It's 18 tooth, black, and likes cuddles on a sofa. This is actually for my side business, AliExpress. It's a bit of a gamble with it being aluminium, but it's got wide hips, so won't destroy my aluminium freehub body. I tried an alloy cog in the past, and I did snap a tooth. If this relationship fails, I'll just bounce back to my old steel one. More purple spacers and a lock ring wraps it all up nicely. Looks cool, huh? And done in record time. Let's fit it. The purple really stands out. By the way, look how neat the dropout and axle is. Super low profile. Chain time. KMC Z1E HX is the model, strong, doesn't stretch much, and my last one was on my bike for over a year with no issues. However, before I fit the chain, I'll fit the tensioner. Inspired have updated their design. At first glance, it's a little hard to make out how it'll work. But once fitted, it all makes sense. This version gives a lot more chain wrap around the cog, which should help prevent damage and reduce the chance of a skipping chain. I do have my concerns though. Even though I'm sponsored by Inspired, I'm still going to critique things. There's no adjustable spring tension here, so it seems like I might get more chain slap than before. This is also the shortest length chain I could use, and it's at least 4 links longer than my homemade tensioner uses, which adds weight. The extreme chain wrap does have its advantages though, so I'll see how I get on with it. So now the bike can be accelerated, let's bestow it the power to unaccelerate, with not 1 but 2 disc brakes. More purple! Now I was fortunate enough to get myself a pair of purple haze. This is a limited edition version of the Dominion A4 model to celebrate a quarter of a century of them making hydraulic disc brakes. The purple being the go-to colour for the 90s, and the Dominion A4 being my go-to brakes for the 20s. Now I've actually had these brakes for a while, and I'm sure Hayes would have loved me to fit them sooner, but better late than never. These really do pop against the yellow frame, just like a real bruise. I always route the front brake up the steerer, so I don't get tangled doing those bar spins and foot jam whips that I never do. Take a deep breath, Hexy. Now this is also a good opportunity to subscribe if you haven't already, but also a great opportunity for me to cut down this hose as it's far too long. A zip tie ain't pretty, but it works well to keep the hose out the tyre. Inspired don't put a guide here, as it proved to be a bad stress riser on early models and actually caused forks to crack. No bleeding was needed, not the brakes anyway, and as usual it was super easy to set up with only the rotor needing the smallest of tweaks to get it running silently. Now when I do a test ride, you might notice some clunking from the pads as they slide and hit each side of the caliper. This is fairly normal for new pads, but as the back paint wears, the pistons will grip more and the clunking will go away. If not, I can just put some tape on the back of the pads to give something for the pistons to grip to. With the front done, the back brake then gets fitted with no drama. I had to cut this one down too, but again, no bleeding needed. I cut the rear brake long enough for at least 1 rotation, but maybe 2 if it's well behaved. We've got purple seat clamps over here. A clamp needs something to clamp to, so I'll feed it this lightweight one-piece Inspired seat and post. Not much to say about this, it plugs the hole and it looks nice. Only issue is that this in reality is a BMX product, so comes in the smaller BMX seat post size. Fortunately, Inspired gave me this shim, or shir, or shem. It would be bigoted of me to assume its pronouns. But whatever it is, it works like a charm, and I accept it. Next up, how about an accelerator pedal? Well, I can do you one better. How about a purple accelerator pedal? My sponsor Pinned make these CNC beasts a short drive up the road from me. Well, okay, it's nearly 2 hours. And if the titanium axle and pins aren't pimp enough, they custom etched my logo onto the outside. So cool. All I need to do now is add some bar gloves. I haven't been sponsored by ODI for a while now, but I still love their long neck lock-on grips. And as a bonus, I'm really pleased to see they'll even work on e-bikes too. The rubber compound and rib design gives lots of pleasure for my hands. They're not too fat, not too thin either. They're perfect temperature porridge, that's what they are. Actually, the grips weren't the last thing. I found a Tati Bike's chainstay protector to, well, protect my chainstay. So there we have it, all done. I just have to do the bolt and angle checks and then I can see how it feels. These tyres sure make manuals and carving nice. The obligatory backwards manual test was a resounding success too. Silly tricks aside, we obviously all want to know how well it wheelies. Well, wheelies get a D-, see me after class rating. After bunny hopping the mountain bike, this thing feels so twitchy. Well, I think the bike looks great, but that's not important. What is important is whether the cute thief approves. He seems to really like the bash guard. No news is good news though. His full approval sign is if he sits down though. And there we have it, full approval, stoked. Not everyone likes bruises, so no offense if this colour scheme isn't to your taste, but I like bright bikes as they pop more in videos and photos, and I think this might be hard to miss. I'm looking forward to putting these tyres to the test. They felt really nice doing car park tricks. I'm curious though, if you could name a Schwalbe tyre, what would you call it? I think mine would be the Rally Alley or the Trials in Tommy. I still need to bed in the brakes, but so far they're feeling nice. As always, I can strongly recommend trying a set of Hayes out for yourself. As nice as the Shimano XT cranks are, I'm hoping Pinned can come up with something pretty special to match their pedals. I'm going to give the tensioner a fair try, but if it comes to it, I'll replace it with my homemade titanium one, which I still think is the best tensioner ever. As a whole, I'm really pleased with how the bike has turned out. I think it's easy to go overboard with coloured parts, so I think keeping the purple to just a few bits spread over the bike has worked well. Goes without saying, but a huge thanks goes out to Inspired and the rest of my sponsors for making this bike possible. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments, but that's it for now. I hope to make plenty of content on this bike soon. I hope you all have an amazing week and I'll see you next time. Take care, bye bye.